11. How did it go tonight? Stan asked when she got back to the brownstone. Not bad. Dumping her loot into the bed. A dream night for a thief. Unfortunately, it's nowhere near enough to buy a spaceship with. We don't need to buy one. I've got a plan that ought to work now that we have some money to play around with. The first thing we're going to need is a spaceship driver. I'd love to talk about it, but first I need a bath. And I'm famished. Sometimes stealing can be hard work. Oh, by the way, here's a present. She tossed the dagger onto the bed. Stan picked it up and admired the gleaming, narrow blade and the rhino handle. Where'd you get this? Just a little trinket I picked up during the evening. 12. Over the next 2 weeks, Julie converted the loot from Khalil's apartment to cash, and Stan lost no time putting it to work. There was information to buy, people to bribe, and round-the-clock work by hired technicians to put Norbert in a full working condition. 2 weeks to the day after Julie's theft at the plaza, she met Stan for lunch at the Tavern on the Green in Central Park. Since it wasn't a work day for her, she permitted herself a cocktail. Stan was looking pretty well, a shade paler than usual, but still not bad for a man dying of cancer and sustaining himself on heavy doses of the most addictive narcotic substance known to man. His eyes were a little dreamy, but his voice was firm enough as he said, Julie, we're ready to make our move. Today? That's right. Are you ready? She gave him an exasperated look of course, you really don't have to ask me that. Sorry, I didn't mean anything by it. Her voice softened. No, I'm sorry. I don't mean to snap at you. It's the waiting. It's hard on my nerves. Well, it'll soon be over. If this plan works, we'll have ourselves a pilot. And if it doesn't work? We could be dead. Fair enough. Where are we going? To look up an old friend of mine and make him an offer he can't refuse. 13. Jersey City, even in its best days, had been a city many people found objectionable. It hadn't improved much since the days before the human-alien wars and the human reoccupation. On the days Stan and Julie went there, half of the streets downtown were awash due to a burst water main from a week before, and the city's repair crews still hadn't gotten around to capping it. Ragged, mean-looking men and women hung around every street corner. They looked like down-and-outers, but there was something sly and dangerous about them. There were soup kitchens set up here and there, and the buildings looked old and dilapidated. Even the newly built sections of the city were starting to show wear, their poor construction materials already crumbling. Packs of wild dogs slinked in and out of back alleys. Nobody had gotten around to getting rid of them yet. It's pretty bad. Hey, I've seen worse. Not that I want to hang around this place. At Central Station, Stan found him a motorized pedicab. The driver was a gnarled old brute dressed nearly in rags, with a shapeless felt that on which incongruously was the glittering bright medallion that let him legally operate a for-hire vehicle. Stan peered inside the three-wheel pedicab. Some of these drivers had been known to hide accomplices inside, the better to rob the customers, or so it was said. Stan didn't really know what to expect. He hadn't been outside New York City in years. He gave the driver the address, and the man grunted. "You sure you want to go there, mister?" "Yes, I'm sure. Why do you ask?" "You're going to the heart of the old gaslight district, where the space derelicts and the chemheads hang out." "Yes, I know. No place for a lady either." "Shut your face and keep moving. Long as you know what you're getting into." The pedicab operator started up the hand-cranked washing machine motor that ran his little vehicle. Stan and Julie settled back. Once the driver got up to speed, he gave them a dashing ride. He wove in and out of traffic on Jersey City's wide boulevards, the pedicab dodging in and out of the debris that the striking garbage collectors would get around to picking up once they settled their contract with the city. The street was like an obstacle course, filled with boxes, packing cases, mattresses, wrecked vehicles, even the carcass of a horse. There were also plenty of vehicles driven by kamikaze drivers who were hell-bent on getting somewhere, anywhere, rushing around and dodging in and out of each other's way like rules of the road were no more than memories. There was a dirty gray sky overhead, the sun concealed behind dark-edged clouds. It weren't anyone's fault that the day was so rotten, but you felt like blaming someone anyhow. Looking around, Stan thought, to paraphrase Robert Browning, anything so ugly had to be evil. "How do you like it?" the driver asked, turning back to fix Stan with a hard look. "The city? It looks like it's falling on hard times." "Buddy, you can say that again. This has always been a bad luck city. Gutted during the Alien Wars. That happened to a lot of cities. Gave them a chance to rebuild, only crappier." "Well, things are tough all over," Stan said, wishing the driver would turn around and pay attention to the traffic. The driver acted like he had eyes in the back of his head. Cars came shrieking at him from every direction, and somehow they always missed, and he kept right on talking. "You're from New York, right? I can always tell. You people didn't get the pulsing plague like we got it here in Jersey. Turned whole neighborhoods into madhouses, filled with raving lunatics before it did them the favor of killing them. But not all of them. Worse luck. There are some plague people still alive, you know? They were infected, but it didn't kill them. But it can kill you if they touch you. I've been inoculated against the plague." "Sure. But what good will an inoculation do you against the new berserkers you get around here? They're mostly people who recovered from the pulsar, but with something missing. It was like some center of control in their heads just vanished. Berserkers can get into a frenzy over the smallest thing, over nothing at all, and then watch out for them because they start killing and don't stop until somebody stops them. I'll watch out for them." "You want a good restaurant?" the driver said suddenly. "Try Toys Oriental Palace over on the Ogden. They got away with soy pro you'd never believe. They use real spices in their sauces too." "Thanks. I'll remember that. Are we close now?" "You can smell it, can't you?" the driver said, grinning. "Yep, we're just about there." The driver slowed down and looked for an opening in the traffic, found one that was too small, and decided to make it larger. He propelled the little pedicab into it, suffering no more than a bruised bumper. Bumped into a narrow street off the boulevard, took a couple of turns, and pulled up to the curb. Stan and Julie got out. Stan saw they were in an evil-looking neighborhood, which was just about what he'd expected. Above him, rising above the buildings, he saw a landmark, the spire of the Commercial Services Landing Field, a local service facility where non-stellar spaceships took off and landed. There had been a lot of discussion about it in the newly formed city council. Too close to the city, some said. It could be a source of danger. If one of those things goes down, some people still didn't trust spacecrafts. It was a point, but the other side had the answer. It'll bring back jobs into the city. We'll be the closest full facility field within a 100-mile radius of New York. A lot closer than the Montauk Point facility. The business will flock to us. And in Jersey City, where business is king and corruption is its advisor, there was no answer to that. The spaceport's spire was several miles away, Stan figured. He was in the neighborhood of small ramshackle buildings built against the bulwark of several skyscrapers. He was standing in front of Gabriel's Meat Market, advertising fresh pork today in addition to the usual soy pro steaks and turkey tofu butter balls, and the place stank of blood and chemicals. Next to it was a small newsstand and what looked like a better parlor besides that. Betting was legal in the state of New Jersey, an important source of revenue. Most of the state legislature didn't approve of gambling, but money was hard to find these days, even with the giant biofarm plant recently opened in nearby Hoboken, and with MBSW, the Mercedes-Benz Spaceship Works, sprawled out and loaded. A young woman, perhaps 16 or 17 years old, came up to Stan. She was slender and tall, and she wore a new motorcycle jacket. Ignoring Julie, she said, "Can I help you, mister?" Stan shook his head. "I'm not interested today, thank you." She glared at him. "You think I'm selling sex? Forget it, stupid. I can see you got a lady with you, and besides, you don't have enough to buy me." "What are you offering then?" Stan said. "Advice and guidance." Stan couldn't help laughing. "Thanks, but we can do without it." "Can you really? You people from around here?" "No, as a matter of fact." "Well, that's pretty clear. You want to walk out of here alive? You better buy a pass." Stan looked around. There seemed to be nothing much happening on the street. It all looked safe enough, yet something about her tone of voice chilled him, and he said, "Just out of curiosity, what happens if we don't take a pass?" She shrugged. "What usually happens to people who stray onto other people's turf." "But I'm standing in a public street." "It's turf all the same. You're in the territory of the Red Kings. I can sell you a pass that'll keep you out of trouble, or you can take your chances." Julie had been standing by, listening, letting Stan handle it, but she was getting impatient. "For heaven's sake, Stan, give her something and let's get on with it." "I guess I'll take 2 passes." "How much are they?" Her price of $10 didn't seem too bad. Stan paid with a 20 and waited for change. "For the other 10, I'll sell you some advice," the woman said. Stan hesitated, then decided not to argue. "Okay, what's your advice?" "When you go into the soup kitchen, don't forget your pail." And then she turned and walked away. Stan looked at the pass in his hand. It was a playing card, the 5 of diamonds. Turning it over, he saw a fine looping scrawl in red magic marker. He couldn't read it, but it looked just like graffiti. "Hey, can I help?" a voice asked. It was a vagrant in a shapeless gray cloth hat who had spoken to them. He looked fat and stupid and evil. Julie said to him, "Buzz off, Buster." The man looked for an instant as though he was prepared to take umbrage at the remark, then warned perhaps by a sixth sense that told him when he was outmatched. He mumbled something and walked on. "I should be doing the protecting." "Don't get all bent out of shape over it. I can take care of bums and wise guys, but I don't know how to build robots. It all evens out in the end." "Yeah, I guess it does. Here we are." They walked up to the crumbling steps of a rotting tenement. An odor of roach repellent fought with the smell of crushed roaches. There was not much to choose between them. Dim yellow light bulbs burned overhead as they climbed to the third floor. Stan found the right door and knocked. No answer. He knocked again, louder. "Maybe we should have phoned." "No telephone." "I know he's in there. There's a light on under the door and I can hear the TV." "Maybe he's shy. I think we can fix that." With one well-placed kick, she shattered the lock. The door swung inward. Within, there was a dismal-looking apartment that might have been pretty nice along around the time Rome was founded. It was a hideous place of ancient wallpaper and mildew, and the sound of a toilet running. The smell of frying kelp patties from other apartments overlaid the basic odors. There was an overflowing garbage pail with 2 cardboard cartons of garbage beside it. For furniture, there was an old wooden kitchen table. Sitting at it in a straight-backed chair was a strongly made, sad-faced middle-aged man with iron gray hair. This man looked up as they came in. He seemed startled by what he saw, yet uncaring, as if it didn't matter what the world threw at him next. There was a small black and white TV on a table, and he turned it off. "Hello, Captain Hoban." Hoban took his time about answering. He seemed to be reorienting himself in the real world after a long trip to some unimaginable place, perhaps to the time of his trouble in the asteroids. At last, he said, "It is you, isn't it? Why, hello, Stan." "Hi. I want you to meet my friend Julie." Hoban nodded, then looked around. He seemed aware for the first time of the apartment's appearance. "Please sit down, miss. You too, Stan. I'll get you some tea. No, I'm sorry there isn't any left. No extra chairs either. If I'd known you were coming, Stan." "I know you would have had lunch catered," Stan said. "Lunch? I can fry you a kelp patty." "No, sorry, just kidding, Captain. We're not staying. We're getting out of here, and so are you." Hoban looked surprised. "But where are we going?" "There's got to be a cafe near here. Someplace we can talk." Hoban looked around again and grinned sheepishly. "I guess this place isn't too conducive to conversation." "Especially not a business talk. Have you got a coat? Let's go."